I have no choice, and I cannot transfer it into a face-to-face course because my students will be, up to 1,000 miles apart. And so geography is just getting in the way of what I have always felt is important, is that connection. So what I need to know is, okay, here we are now, which has been, your presentation has been really helpful for me because I see myself so much in the way you're speaking. What am I going to do about this? And how can I transfer some of how can I use technology to transfer some of what you're talking about as so important, and that face-to-face contact, into what I'm about to embark on, and try to overcome these feelings of, oh no, how is this possibly going to work in ways that will feel positive for me, into, okay, this is different, but it could be equally effective. So that's what I'm thinking about as you're talking.
Yeah, and actually, as you were talking, Lynn, I was thinking, because you said something similar to what Jack said about Nancy and I and us engaging you and talking about our paper as very different than the paper. And that's the problem. That's the limitations of this. And I think that's a lot of what Jack's been trying to say, is that the printed page, this Western way of us representing our knowledge in this linguistic way on a printed page, is very limiting. Because, of course, we had to finish the paper. We had to get it off. We kept struggling with, we gotta finish it.
Yeah, we kept getting these emails from Lynette.
Like, come on, it's due. But really, a lot of our epiphanies didn't happen, quite honestly for me, until after the paper was written. Because your thinking, the evolution of what you're going through is constantly evolving. Just as our learning is always evolving. Like I said to my associate dean a couple years ago, after I heard Alfie Cohn, we brought him to campus for something, and I turned to my associate dean. Alfie was saying something about professors that use the same yellowed, tattered text with the notes from 15 years ago and this and that. And I turned to him and I said, you'll never get a complete syllabus from me ever again at the beginning of the semester. And it's a standing joke because I never handed my syllabus because it's always in construction, under construction. And so I'm thinking that for that online thing, to be able to embed some of these visual kinds of things, because I've tried the Skype, I've tried the live meeting piece to try to engage students, but as Nancy said, they don't all have they don't all have those tools for whatever. They don't all have, whether it's economy, whether it's access to it, whatever. So somehow we have to be able to use the tools of technology for that, but to be able to embed some of these ways that they can see the face-to-face and the relation, and where we can put ourselves there, like you just said, Lynn. I think that's really important.
I love the idea of embedding. It was a presentation Jack did, where he showed a teacher and some students in China.
Yes.
And there was this moment, you caught the moment. That amazing moment to me. But that's, okay, how do you capture that and then put it out there for a 19-year-old so that the 19-year-old doesn't miss what it is that you're looking for? And I'm also going to share a dirty little secret. And I don't know how to get over this. It's a part of me. I'm not sure. And I'll put it out there. This summer, my daughters moved. Both of them within 2 weeks of each other, and of course they were incapable, a 21-year-old, of finding a box and putting her crap in it. Okay, so Mama had to come and help. Well, I had signed up to teach a summer course that met 1 day a week, 9 to 5. So there were 2 weeks, and they happened to move back to back, that I needed not to be there. So I said, on my first thoughts, I went to my dean, I said, I don't want to teach the summer course. And she looked, what do you mean you don't want to teach the summer course? Well, look at how much money it is. That's the other, we get paid nicely for summer. I don't want to teach the summer course since I need to move my daughters, and I've got to be Mama this summer. It's really important, and I'm not going to be there. And she said, fool, put them online. And I did. And did I compromise? And I wonder if this push towards putting us online has to do with, I fell into it. It was a lot more convenient. I was in Washington, D.C. My students were in Michigan in their jammies. I know they weren't online from 9 to 5. I put it online. It made life easier. And they got something out of it. I designed them some nice things that they had to do. They had to do these panoramic photographs. But I have some guilt over that. What did I lose in the process? What is it that my colleague who lives in Florida and says, I teach all my courses online, what is she giving up? And what is she getting in return? I love the idea that we can teach internationally all in the same place. But who's really interacting? Are they interacting with only me because I'm the one who's reading the post? Do they really spend the time to read each other's posts? Or is it, as my students say, I do enough to get by because it's an online class?
Linda, you had a
I don't know.
comment earlier that you wanted to.
Well, you made a light bulb go on in my head because you crystallized for me one of the real challenges with the digital natives who are so much more comfortable. Emoticons, okay, but reading the really rich conversation that goes on physically. I am teaching a unit in my teacher ed on autism, and I've got a lot of students.
Wow.
Unfortunately, it's getting easier to find classrooms with kids with autism in it, but I've got a lot of students who have to meet literacy and math and science standards with young children who don't talk and don't use body language and don't do all the things they're comfortable with. And I'm realizing that they need to really learn how to read body language because there is communication. You can teach literacy to somebody with no language because they're communicating. You have to figure out how they're doing it. I think some of the difficulty they're having is exactly what you say.
Yeah.
They spend so many fewer hours. I mean, back in my day, which predated television, I spent time face to face with people day in, day out, and you just, because I have the brain connections that helps me pick up the nonverbal communication, I just learned that.
Right.
And if my students are behind a screen in which at most they're using emoticons or OMGs and LOLs or whatever,
Yeah.
that's those many fewer hours. I mean, if you believe Malcolm Gladwell about having to spend 10,000 hours to really master something,
Yes.
whether it's hockey or playing a guitar or whatever.
Or teaching.
Or teaching.
But or teaching, or just communicating, learning how to communicate non-verbally. And I try to amaze my students. I can never remember the right percentage. I know it's high, but I say, do you realize how much communication is carried in a nonverbal channel? Somebody here knows it. Is it 75% or?
Oh, I thought it was higher.
Yeah, I mean, it's high. And so then they start getting their heads around how you can teach kids with autism who have no language, because you're. But if they have so many fewer hours, you start getting on computers at age 2.
And we encourage it.
That's right. That's exactly right. At a very, very
So
young
what a
age.
challenge for
It's
us.
a challenge.
And I really don't consider myself so much of a digital immigrant. I mean, I am first generation, but I immigrated in my teens. I've been computing since 1968, and I feel like I learned it because I was learning as it was growing too. And so I don't feel that same kind of divide, but I know that they're missing something, and I think you've identified it.
They're missing something at the same time they're developing something else.
Yeah, yeah.
I could read about any of my students' sex lives online. All I have to do is open their Facebook account, and there they are, topless with a shop glass in their hand, which we talk about in going out to the schools and looking at a job, but that's part of my job. I can read about who they're dating, their wildest dreams, they will put all that out there as if there is no, the line between personal and public has been blurred in a very different way than I blur it. I'm not comfortable